Oh, hi there, everyone. It's Linda here from Just for Tummies. And if you're watching live, welcome to today's live video, Healthy Mum, Healthy Baby. And if you're watching this on catch up, welcome too. So today I'm going to be speaking to nutritional therapist Sophia Hill. And Sophie's done quite a few videos with us on different subjects over the years. But I particularly wanted to speak to Sophia today because her daughter, Frida, was a year old, I think a week or two ago. And with Sophia being a nutritional therapist, I just wanted to get her take on how she prepared her body ready for the pregnancy, how she helped ensure that she had a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby at the end of that pregnancy. I think if you've been following Just for Tummies for a while, you'll probably notice that we tend to, well, the majority of our customers are female and many of them are of a similar age to me, at what I would say 45 plus. I'm 64. And this month at Just for Tummies, we decided, and of course, Just for Tummies, we are here for women of all ages throughout all stages of their lives, and men too, incidentally. So throughout February, we decided to dedicate our posts, our blogs, and our newsletters to women throughout the stages of their lives. And one of those stages, of course, for many women, is pregnancy. So I'm going to invite Sophia into the live. Hi there, Sophia.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Very well. A little bit tired because it was Frida's first birthday party on Sunday, so it was mayhem, a little bit like chaotic with, I think there was 20 children there. So yes, I am still recovering slightly from all the planning and all the excitement, but yes,
I bet it was
very
great
fun.
fun.
It was so much fun. Everyone had a great time, so yeah, it was worth it. Exactly, that's it. Absolutely, it's all about making those memories. I think when they're so young, and like to have all the pictures to show when she's older and everything.
Well, as you know, Jessie, she was 4 on the 5th of January, 5th of February, and she had her big party. I call it the Kardashian party. The 11th of February. So her parents hired a hall with a huge bouncy castle with scooters and trikes. We had a tattooist, painting. We had the princesses. We had Elsa, Rapunzel, and Belle, and they sang and danced and entertained about 35 children and their parents.
Oh my goodness, that sounds more than mine for sure. So I bet you are also tired, yes.
Oh, well, not just that, Sophia. Tired for lots of reasons, but looking forward to Friday, of course, when I go away.
Austria will be lovely.
Austria, yes, the Viva May Clinic of Natural Medicine for 2 weeks.
That will be amazing.
Well, I'm going to be posting on social media while I'm there. Not too much because I really do want to have a digital detox.
Oh yeah.
But I will be doing a video and I will be writing blogs and mailers when I come back. About the cure that I will be doing there.
Oh, that sounds great.
But let's get on to Healthy Mum, Healthy Baby. And first of all, Sophia, if you can, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you became interested in nutrition, and why you decided to go that extra step and do a degree in, was it nutritional sciences? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I originally actually studied nutrition, human nutrition, at the University of Nottingham, and it was it was great. It was very much, very sciencey, very like biochemistry, biology of the cell, anatomy, and all of that, which was a really good foundation to have. But it didn't really have the sort of clinical experience and the more holistic side of things that I was really seeking. The more I got into the course, I thought there's something missing here for me to take this into clinical practice. So once I'd finished that, I did another 3 years at the College of Naturopathic Medicine, and I got a degree level diploma in nutritional therapy, which is quite different in terms of the course. It's more suited towards a holistic approach, so looking at the person as a whole rather than looking at individualized symptoms. We're looking at root causes, we're looking at the history of the person right back instantly to childhood and even birth, and you know what might have happened there that could have, you know, caused a sort of catalyst of things leading up to somebody's symptoms later in life. So yeah, they're very different, but both really great. I mean, I'm really glad that I got the degree from the University of Nottingham, but then the other one we did, I think it was over 100 hours of clinical experience on the course, where we had a student clinic. So we would run the clinic with the students and see, you know, real life clients and patients, whatever you'd like to call them. And it was just the best experience, you know, while obviously being supervised and marked, which was very nerve-wracking at the time. But it really set me up to be able to, you know, take that into my own clinic later on. So then I did set up my own clinic afterwards, and I have sort of specialized within gut health in my clinic due to basically having gut health issues myself, which sort of really sparked off an interest for me to go down that route, because I managed to heal my own IBS through nutrition, through looking at root causes, from taking targeted supplements and managing stress and lifestyle stuff. So
that's interesting then. Sorry, Sophie, I hadn't realised that you'd done the degree at Nottingham University first. I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, it was first, yeah.
So, and I know that you had IBS as a younger woman. So do you think that degree that you did just didn't give you enough tools to sort out your IBS, and it was only when you went to the College of Naturopathic Nutrition that you were able to do that?
100%. Yes, there was so many other areas that I thought there's a lot missing here that I am not able to join the dots with. Yes, the science was great, but it wasn't that holistic looking at the whole individual person and going back and, you know, really looking at a timeline of events. So the extra diploma was just worth its weight in gold to me, and that was definitely the turning point for me to be able to go on my own healing journey and then, you know, be able to help others in the future as well.
This is what I love, why I love the Viva May clinic, or clinics. They've got more than one clinic now in Austria so much, and they've also got a satellite clinic in London. And that's just a day clinic. It's not a residential clinic. But the reason I love it so much is the juxtaposition of all the doctors and nurses there are medical. They are medical doctors and nurses, but they've also been trained in naturopathic medicine as well. And I just love that blending of the two.
I do completely. I like to have the standpoint of both sort of sides of the, you know, both viewpoints really, and be able to see it from both sides.
Okay, so you've now got your gorgeous little girl Frida, and she's beginning to look a lot more like Rob, I think.
I think she always has, to be honest. At the party, pardon?
Even as a tiny baby, yes, she did.
She did, and she still does. Everyone at the party was saying, "Oh my gosh, she looks so much like her dad." And yeah, there's no mistaking. If you put them in a room, you'd be able to know who her daddy was. That's for sure. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Frida and her personality now. It must be developing more.
Oh, it really is. I feel like she is the most determined little one I've ever come across. Like, if she wants to do something, she will do it. Like, she climbs the stairs, and before she was, you know, I think she was doing it around 9 months old, and she sort of saw them, and she started, the determination in her eyes, honestly. She's very independent. Like, she doesn't sort of like, breaks my heart, but she doesn't like need me that much. Like, she's very happy to like sit and play on her own.
You away?
Yeah, she does. She's like, I want to get down, I want to crawl, I want to go and explore. She loves exploring. She's so happy. She's very smiley, very content. She's very clever. Like, she knows everything we're telling her to do. She's not talking much yet, a few words, but she knows it all. She's very inquisitive, cheeky. Yeah, all those typical like toddler traits are coming through now, where she's really forming her own personality. So yeah.
Just one question that I haven't included actually in the questions. You know, about modern parenting. Sophie. So did you buy any books, you know, or any resources online that have helped you in the first year of Frida's life, or did you listen to your mom or your girlfriends? You know, what have you done? Because back when I had Colin, you know, he'll be 43 in May. There was nothing. Obviously, there was no internet, and there were. Well, as far as I'm aware, I didn't come across any books at all about child rearing and parenting.
Yeah,
it's just what we, you know, what we were taught from our parents, our grandparents, and other relatives and friends, really.
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, a lot of the reading I did when I was pregnant was more about because there was so much.
You froze a little there. Can you just repeat that, Sophia?
Sorry. What I mainly read about when I was pregnant was actually more about the birth. I was just saying that I plan to have a home birth, which is probably what we'll talk about later. But I did a lot of reading around all of that, and didn't read that much on parenting while I was pregnant. However, since having her, I have read a couple of really good books, and one of them I should have got it actually. I think it's called The Danish Way of Parenting or something, and that really aligns with me. It's a really interesting book actually, and it's about the fact that the Danish are the happiest in the world, and it's looking into why, and looking into, you know, how they're treated as children, how they're brought up, and how that might lead to them being this, you know, the happiest people in the world. So I would really like to follow those sort of principles with Frida.
Can you give us a couple of examples out of that book then, Sophia?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that they touch on is actually probably against what people might think, but the way that they don't overpraise their children, they don't instill in them that you are amazing, you are the best. They kind of look at sort of critiquing them where it's necessary. So rather than saying you did amazing at that, it'll be like honing in on you tried really hard, you know, when you were doing that. So praising them for their efforts rather than saying that they're already sort of amazing at things. So it gives them that thirst to always be thinking, oh, how can I try and, you know, try my hardest again next time? Whereas if we immediately say to them, you're amazing, great job, that's amazing, like they kind of already think that they're amazing, so they don't need to try harder.
Where do they go from there?
Yes, so it's sort of things like that. And then I've also bought a couple of books which are Montessori books, so I have tried to sort of instill that in her daily routines a little bit already. She's a little bit young for it still for some of the things, but that's sort of fostering a lot of independence in the children, so they feel like they have a little bit of control. Because I think when they get to be toddlers, a lot of the tantrums and meltdowns come from the fact that they want to be able to do things, but they're not given the opportunity. So the Montessori way of doing things is that you, for example, give them a low rail with clothes that they can choose what clothes they might like to wear off a select few. So it's controlled choices that you've given them, but they think they're making those choices. And I think it helps to breed that independence from an earlier age. So yeah, there's a few things that I've taken from those books that I really like, and that really align with me. But yeah, I think there's so much on the internet now that is available, like that wasn't available back in the day, that it can sometimes feel a bit like there's so much kind of what's true, what's not, where do you go from?
Overwhelming, yes.
Yeah.
But that's true of the internet anyway, not just when it comes to pregnancy and parenting.
Absolutely, it is so true.
I wanted to talk to you today because, as I said in the introduction, you are a nutritional therapist, and so you know, in my opinion, there's no one would know better how to prepare their body to ensure they have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. So on that note, how did you approach your pregnancy, Sophia?
Well, I think this sort of goes back a little bit to my wedding, because it was cancelled due to COVID for 2 years, actually. We had it was meant to be 2020, it was meant to be 2021, and we always wanted married for various reasons, really. But actually, that time where we were in lockdown and we had all that time to ourselves, and I just had a lot more time to actually focus on what I wanted my house to look like when we did get married, and then I knew that we would probably have a baby quite soon after that.
Yeah.
So it gave me quite a lot of time to work on my health, and I did use that time, and I really worked on my gut health. I did a variety of stool tests. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do stool tests, but I personally wanted to see, as I'd had IBS in the past, where that was at. And it was really important for me to lay the foundations of gut health in my pre-conception days, so that, because I know how important it is for the baby that the microbiome is passed on. So I did a hell of a lot of work on my own gut, following some testing, worked on the results of that. I really
just can I just interrupt just on that point then about the stool testing? Did you also do any vaginal microbiome testing as well? Because obviously I know that you would want a vaginal birth, so you would want as healthy a vagina as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't actually do any vaginal microbiome testing on myself, purely because I've never really had any sort of issues. I'm not saying that I could still not have had the perfect vaginal microbiome, but I've never sort of luckily had things like thrush bacterial vaginosis or anything like that to sort of warrant me putting my money into that. But I have had sort of like the gut issues, so I sort of put my money more into that side. But absolutely, vaginal microbiome testing, particularly if you suffered with infertility, and if I had suffered with infertility at any point, I would 100% have gone down that route, definitely, to look at what that microbiome is doing. But no, personally, I didn't actually do that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But I did also look at sort of environmental toxins in our home. Where could we clean those up? I bought an air filter. I wanted to make sure, that the environment that I was living in prior was as sort of toxin free as possible, without being too, OTT on it. But I did a few little changes around that. I also tried to support my hormone health, which I do anyway, in terms of, with my diet. So ensuring an abundance of healthy fats in the diet, because hormones are made from fats. The building block of hormones is literally from cholesterol. So anyone who's on a low fat diet trying to conceive needs to, get rid of the low fat products and go on to the full fat everything. So yes.
Sorry, Sophia. So women who have low fat diets then, and if they do manage to conceive, do you know what the health implications may be for the baby?
Well, considering that the baby literally needs so much fat for its own brain development and its own brain growth, because the brain is made up of predominantly fat, the baby will take what it needs from the mother. So it will take mother's stores of EPA and DHA, which are the fats from, particularly the source of fuel, the fats that the brain needs. So it will take that from mother. If there isn't enough from mother, then the baby will be lacking in those things. And yes, it may affect, development and things of the brain. And also it's been sort of hypothesized about baby brain and the mother not eating enough fats and the baby taking the maternal stores of fats, and then that coming out in more forgetfulness and more baby brain. And also
I just wonder about autism, if there's a connection here, because back in the 1970s, 1980s, I think about 1 in every 2,000 babies was born with autism, and now we're looking at about 1 in every 200, it might be even less than that. So I just wondered, and perhaps this is a conversation for another day, where epigenetics come into this, where something that's happening in the environment or with diet and lifestyle is affecting the DNA of the woman, not changing the DNA, just affecting it in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree what you said. Like from the sort of 1990s ish, there's been such a huge increase, and obviously yes, there is more awareness, there is more testing these days. However, I think that there has been such a rise that it's more, you know, I'm questioning the environment, and I'm seeing such a massive change in the environment from those days to now, like such a huge shift in such a short space of time. There is huge links that's, you know, there's research on PubMed and things between particularly toxins from maternal exposure to toxicants and then autism in children. So when I say, you know, environmental toxins, talking about things like air pollution, so indoor and outdoor. So things like say outdoor, obviously we've got car exhaust fumes and things like that, but indoor we've got things like the air quality from mold spores. If we've got any damp in the house, we've got things like cleaning products, we've got things like paint on the walls that emit you know, all these VOCs and other toxicants.
All the synthetic fabrics as well, carpets,
flame retardants and all that. I mean, we were so careful when we were doing Frida's nursery with what paint we put on the walls. We had wool carpets, so we didn't have the synthetic carpets, and it was all, you know, tried to design it as low tox as possible. But there is definitely research out there showing the links of toxicants in the mother, you know, gestational exposure, and then interfering with brain development and increasing in the risk of autism. There's also a huge gut-brain link that's becoming apparent in terms of autism as well. So then I have to question the dramatic increase in the use of antibiotics as well for similar time frame for the mother and for the baby.
Absolutely, since the 1970s, without question. Yes, the overprescribing of antibiotics. Yeah,
100%. And obviously they're needed sometimes, but are disruptions to the gut microbiome also causing disruptions to brain chemistry? Well, I personally believe absolutely yes, they are. So there's definitely environmental factors going on in here in terms of autism. And I also have to look at nutritional deficiencies as well, because I'm thinking, you know, the quality of the food, the quality of the soil back in 1980s, 1990s was a hell of a lot better than what it is now. And we are now eating such a heavily processed diet. We are seeing children who are eating, you know, really poor quality diets, and their nutrients needed for brain health, things like B vitamins, omega-3s, zinc, all these things that are so needed that are lacking. It's all affecting the brain development. So yeah, I think environment is a lot to answer for.
A very picky eater. And maybe
Sorry.
when you've got a child who is a very picky eater, you know, that can be difficult. And I suppose that's where supplements can help, of course.
Absolutely. And I think it seems to me the more people I talk to, a lot of children, you know, no matter what you do tend to go through a bit of a picky phase. And again, is it because they aren't given that independence and it's their way of, you know, wanting to stamp a bit of authority, like I want to be able to choose this and that, and they don't get that opportunity? And you know, there's a lot of reasons behind it, but I think, yeah, supplements can be a great one if you are struggling with a picky eater, for sure.
On the subject of environmental toxins,
water comes out of a Berkey filter. I don't know if you've seen those, but they're countertop ones that you fill out. They've got great big carbon filters in them. And Berkey is the brand, and it's Berkey, and I've had that for years now. So all our water comes out of that, and we also have a filter on our kitchen sink tap as well. So if I'm out and about and I order some tap water, I'm not going to stress about it, but the majority of my water is filtered, because I would have to say that water is a huge source of toxins. You know, toxins can come from so many places, but the water is a big one, definitely. And also the food, like the water and the food, the things that we eat and drink all day, every day, unfortunately do contain a lot of toxins, particularly if we're not picking organic foods and we're not doing things to, you know, minimize other toxins from, say, food packaging, like plastic wrap and, you know, those kind of things, drinking out of plastic water bottles.
Yeah,
Well.
I mean, because it illustrates how important, you know, gut health and the liver as well, because the liver is the main detoxifier of all of these toxins.
Yeah, sorry, you just broke up there, Linda. I hope I didn't miss anything there.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it just illustrates the importance of good gut health and good liver health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, if you are ingesting some toxins, if your lungs, your liver, and your gut is, you know, is in pretty good condition, you stand a better chance of being able to excrete the toxins.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, so from a health point of view, we are all a work in progress. And should never stop working on our health. That's my opinion. And I know you've done lots of work on your gut health with your previous diagnosis of IBS. Oh, were you actually diagnosed by a GP as having IBS?
Yes, I was. It was like they just didn't know what to class it as, which is the classic case with IBS. It's just a collection of symptoms, and then they just say, we don't really know what to do with you, so we'll say you've got IBS and there's nothing we can do. So yeah, goodbye, basically.
What were your symptoms at the time?
So I would suffer with really bad reactions to certain foods, particularly like dairy. It would really make me very bloated, very uncomfortable, a lot of abdomen pain, a lot of bloating, yeah, lots of like, you know, irregular bowel movements, things like that. So yeah, just the classic sort of IBS symptoms, really. So yeah, I have done a lot of work on that. Like I say, with stool testing, I found out that I had got various things in my microbiome that shouldn't be in there, like parasite, and I had SIBO as well, which is again why I really went into working with a lot of people who have SIBO themselves, because I'd been through it myself. So it was going on a lot of different protocols, following various eradication kill-off protocols to get rid of those, repopulating the microbiome with beneficial bacteria. Managing stress as well was a big one for me, and something that I still have to really try and focus on now, and particularly through my pregnancy and things. Don't get as much time to now that I'm a mum, but that also has a massive impact for me on my sort of gut symptoms and things if I get stressed.
Yes.
So managing that as well. But yeah, it was quite a long rocky road for me, with, you know, me having to piece it all together myself and sort of going that way through it all. But it kind of sort of made me aware of all the places where you can get stuck, and, you know, made me be able to help others, I think, better going forward. So I wouldn't change it, but
no.
Yeah.
no, I totally agree with you, you know, and natural health therapists, the best ones tend to be those who have actually got the t-shirt, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so you decided to get pregnant. We've covered a little bit about the steps that you took, at least in terms of, you know, environmental toxins, to ensure that, you know, you had a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby at the end of it. And I know your diet is very good. It's just very good, isn't it? Very good.
It is pretty good, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, when I was actually pregnant was a slightly different story. Just for the first sort of 3 months, when the nausea didn't start probably until about 6 weeks, I think. But there was a good few weeks where I was not really eating healthily at the very start. I mean, I was doing the best I could, but I had terrible food aversions to things that were actually healthy foods, like broccoli and salad, and me honestly feel so sick. I couldn't actually own eating them, which is so weird for me, because it was just so, I've never felt that way towards. I've always loved those foods. So it was very weird going through that sort of period where I was thinking, I can't even look at these healthy things.
So that was only for 2 or 3 weeks, was it?
It was probably for more than that, a few more weeks than that, but just while the nausea was there at the beginning of the pregnancy. But I still, there were certain things that I had avocados every day. I could always eat those, which was a blessing. But yeah, it was weird. I just felt so sick to start with. The healthy foods just, I wanted more sort of beige coloured foods, which was so unlike me. But I made up for it after.
Were you craving sweet foods?
Yes, I
Yeah.
was. I really was. And they say that is more associated, I think it's an old wives' tale, but with having a girl, if you crave sweet things. But I really did, and I don't usually have a sweet tooth, but I really did. I wanted sweet things. So I had to keep that in check a little bit. But yeah, I definitely had more sweet things than I would usually.
Okay, so when it comes to supplements, then, I mean, so prior to you even thinking about getting pregnant, you would be taking some supplements, I assume.
Yeah, I've always sort of had a bare sort of baseline of supplements that I will just take for general health anyway. So things like vitamin D, fish oil, probiotics. I take collagen all the time. So they were sort of like a bog standard ones that I were taking anyway. And then when we thought that we might be, you know, thinking about trying after getting married, it was focusing more on the ones that are particularly recommended. So the recommendation is 400 micrograms of folic acid or folate. I personally like to choose folate over folic acid, which is the non-synthetic version. Basically, folic acid is a synthetic copy of folate, which is actually B9, vitamin B9. So I was taking folate, 400 micrograms of that. You meant to take it about 3 months prior to conception and
Which
continue.
particular brand, Sophia?
I was taking the BioCare one, and I was also taking, once I found out I was pregnant, I was taking their methyl multivitamin for pregnancy, I think it's called. But that's got the whole blend of all the multivitamins in there. But yeah, that's the one to really look out for, the folate before conceiving. But I've also personally always sort of struggled with a bit of low iron. So that's something else I always recommend people to try and get into, you know, a good range before getting pregnant is iron stores, because they can be hugely depleted in pregnancy. And if you get anemia in your pregnancy, it can lead to complications like postpartum hemorrhage. So it's something, if you've left it too late down the line, it can be too late to build your iron stores up if you've left it until late pregnancy, and then you only just sort of realize that they're declining. So I like to say to people, if you can enter pregnancy with a good bank of iron, that should see you through without, you know, having to go through anemia. Because not only can it make you feel absolutely awful, you don't want to have to be faced with those complications like postpartum hemorrhage, like I mentioned. So
you know, if a woman's got a good diet, Sophia, where she, you know, a food's high in iron, you know, lots of organ meat, for example, lots of dark green leafy veg, those kinds of things, would she still need to supplement with iron?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's where I always say it's best to have the iron levels checked. You don't want to just be supplementing willy-nilly with iron, because it's one of those that can become toxic if taken in excess, because it can be stored away, and then too much iron can actually be, you know, associated with negative outcomes, like even linked to causing cancer. It's very inflammatory in really high levels. So you don't want to overdo it on that. But also, you know, if you have really high periods, if you have got poor gut health, if you've got poor absorption, if you know you've had parasites in the past, there's all sorts of factors that could make you more prone to having low stores of iron, where yes, even if you did have a good diet, you might not be absorbing the iron. If you had
taking medications that block the absorption of iron as well.
That as well. And if you are supplementing with iron, that's another point. Keep it away from certain medications, but also certain foods like dairy, soy, and caffeine can all interfere with the absorption of iron. So you want to try and space those away to get the most out of your iron supplements.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you. So For those of you who have just joined us, or if you're watching this on catch up, I'm chatting with Sophia Hill, nutritional therapist, and we're talking about Healthy Mum, Healthy Baby, which I think, as the title, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you want a healthy baby at the end of your pregnancy, you need to be a healthy mum. And this, we'll be sending this video out. Well, it will remain on all of our social media channels, and we will be sending it out in a newsletter as well. So, Sophia, just going back to folate again, then, because when I was pregnant, and I know I'm going back decades, we were not given folate. We were given iron tablets if we were anemic, and I was anemic. So, what does folate do? What is folate, and why do pregnant women need it? Do all pregnant women need it?
Yes, they absolutely do. So, as I just mentioned, folate is the natural form. Folic acid is the synthetic form that they make, which is sort of more widely found in the cheaper forms of supplements that you can get, like the supermarket brands, for example, will often contain folic acid rather than folate. The folate is a lot better absorbed than the folic acid. It's recommended that you take 400 micrograms of folate or folic acid before pregnancy and during pregnancy. If you don't have enough folate, then it's linked. Well, if you're, say, folate deficient, it can cause severe birth defects, such as things like neural tube defects. So these include things like spina bifida, because it affects the growth of the fetus's brain and spinal cord. So it is really important one to make sure that you do have enough of. But saying that, if you have got pregnant and you haven't been taking it, a lot of people do, they get pregnant and they hadn't meant to, for example. Your diet is going to contain folate. So, if you eat a whole food based diet and you're having a lot of, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, those kind of foods, they do have natural levels of folate in there. So it's not like you're going to have absolutely none unless you take a supplement. You are getting dietary sources as well. But I think to sort of cover all bases, the nice guidelines are that blanket. Make sure you're getting that 400 of folic acid or folate. Just
400 micrograms.
Yes, yeah.
Micrograms, not milligrams, micrograms. And,
yeah.
and going back to the iron supplement, how much iron, and what type of iron?
Well, this is another one. So with the iron, unfortunately, particularly the ones that would be prescribed from the doctor, you are going to be given something like ferrous fumarate. That's the main one that they sort of prescribe. That is really, really poorly absorbed form. It's a cheap form of iron, and it's really not well absorbed at all. So you're not really going to get the same results as if you were taking one that's, better absorbed by the body. So what I took was iron bisglycinate. That's a lot easier on your digestive system as well. Ferrous fumarate can cause, interestingly, not great for a pregnant woman, nausea, and it can also cause constipation. And again, that's another one that can be really common if you're pregnant. Your body does that on purpose. It slows down your transit time so that you can actually take up more nutrients from the food you eat. But you don't want to be then taking a form of iron that is also constipating you, because you can become very uncomfortable very quickly when you've got a baby in there and you're also constipated. So I like to look at different forms of iron than the regularly prescribed form of iron from the doctors. So yes, that's what I would recommend. Again, there's a really good one, Solgar do an iron bisglycinate, and I think it's actually called non-constipating form of iron, and Biocare do one as well. But yeah, trying to stay away from the supermarket brands of iron that are just, they probably don't even disclose what form it is, because you won't get the best out of those.
And how much would you take a day of the iron I can't say it,
bisglycinate? It would generally sort of depend on the person's levels. So if they were really low, I might sort of take a bit of a higher dose. If they were regular, sort of intermediate, and you want to maintain them, I can't remember what's in the multivitamin off the top of my head, but if you were taking iron, you'd probably just be looking at taking the recommended dose on the packet. So I think for the one I took was like just 1 a day for those, and that is, you know, enough to cover the sort of the baseline levels. Unless you were really, really deficient, then you would probably want to look at a higher dose. In fact, I also took some Spartone when I was pregnant as well, because it's the iron-rich water in the sachets. Quite well absorbed, that one as well, and also looking at food sources of iron as well. So I think you mentioned earlier about the organ meats, slightly controversial one, but I did go down that route in my pregnancy. So
yeah, okay, thank you. I wanted to ask you something, and oh, it's just gone. Isn't that frustrating? It might come back to me. Oh, anyway, let's carry on. So yes, you had a home water birth. What made you choose this method of delivery?
Well, I think one of the main reasons was, before I'd even sort of looked into what I wanted my birth to look like, I've never really...
Sorry, I've just remembered what...
Sorry. Oh yeah, ask me why you remember.
Did you put Rob on any supplements?
Put what, sorry?
Rob on any supplements?
Oh, sorry. I didn't realise what you said then. No, he wasn't actually taking on not any specific fertility ones, but he does. I do have him run a few supplements anyway.
Okay, I just wondered. Right, thank you.
He really likes taking turmeric for his, just because he has some little aches and pains from the football he plays. He's often takes fish oil, and he does take B vitamins. But we do have a pretty good diet. So I think he gets a lot from the diet that we eat at home. So he wasn't taking any particular fertility supporting supplements for males. However, if there was an issue with us conceiving, I absolutely would have put him on something, particularly, you know, zinc is a great one for male fertility. So I would have had him on, you know, something of that sort of, you know, mixture of things.
And you know, if a woman is trying to get pregnant, gets pregnant, and her partner, are you able to help them with certain blood tests that would establish if there were any vitamin or mineral deficiencies?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do run quite a lot of tests, functional lab tests, where we look into blood profiles of all the nutrients. We look at thyroid health, we look at hormone health in general, we look at all the vitamins and mineral status, we look at all sorts of things, dive deep into that. There's a lab panel that I run that covers all of those things I just mentioned, which is one I would go to for fertility.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, Sophie, sorry about that. I just wanted
to
get
okay.
That so back to why you chose a water birth as
so the home birth came from a few reasons. One of them was that I am just not very good in hospitals. And when I started looking into birth and looking into the hormones that are needed for birth to progress, oxytocin being one of the main ones, which is that happy feel-good hormone, that's one of the ones that helps your labour to progress. Cortisol is one of the ones, and adrenaline, which actually put the brakes on your labour. So the feeling that I sort of get when I go inside a hospital is like, I freak out a bit. I just don't love going inside hospitals. So that for me would increase my cortisol, put the brakes on. And the more I read around it, the more it really aligned with me that the best place I felt for me and for my birth outcomes would be at home. I wanted as little intervention as possible in my birth. I wanted it to be physiological. I didn't want to have anyone like messing with the fine, intricate sort of tuning of birth, because I feel like it is such a clever process that the body is so capable of doing if it's given the right environment and circumstances. I think that it can, and it does. And interestingly, even if you're in a coma, your baby will still be born. Your body is doing it. So I found that fact absolutely fascinating.
That's an amazing fact,
isn't it? I mean, that gave me such, belief in my own body that it can do this. It doesn't need people, you know, a hospital setting for it to do what it's designed innately to do. I wanted to be free to move about. I wanted to be able to get into the optimal positioning for birth, which incidentally is not laying on your back on a hospital bed. Which is what most of hospital births tend to be, which is where you're laying on your back with bright lights and loads of people staring at you. And again, that's going to tip that balance where the cortisol is probably driven up and the oxytocin is driven down. And then, yes, maybe you are starting to stress, and then the baby is starting to get into stress. And that's where, you know, a lot of intervention can be, you know, involved in the birth, which I just really didn't want to have any of those if it wasn't necessary. And interesting, there's new stats out now that the rates of C-sections are up, I think in the UK, to over 30% now, which it used to be, isn't it? It used to be really low, and now it's becoming more and more and more and more common. And I think when you look at the actual process of birth and you really understand the fine-tuning of those hormones that are involved, you can really see how a home birth is probably the best way to go if you don't want those interventions. And for me anyway, it was the best thing that we did.
She was a good size, wasn't she, Sophia?
She was £9, yeah. So she was not a small baby, that's for sure. But I just wanted to make sure that we had the best experience as mother and baby, because I feel like the birth can have such long-lasting consequences on the mother and the baby, including things like causing birth trauma, which can you know, increase chances of postnatal depression, and it can interfere with the breastfeeding journey, bonding, all of that. It's just like, for me, I really wanted to do everything in my power to ensure we had the best start that we had. I didn't want anything to interfere with my breastfeeding journey. Like some of the interventions that may happen in hospitals can interfere with that. So yeah, for me, it was just, it really aligned with my values, and I would do it again next time for sure.
Okay, thank you. So I think when I emailed you, you know, to ask you if you would do this live with me, and you know, we were kind of chatting about the home birth and the birthing pool, and I asked you if you had a doula, and you said no. And I couldn't remember why you said no. You had a private midwife instead. Is that right?
That is right. Yes, we had to go down the private route because the home birth team in Nottingham was only operating in daytime hours. So I think from about 5 p.m. until 8 a.m. in the morning, there's nobody who would come out to you. And I think a lot of people, you know, labours are long, so the time that you might need the midwife to be there could very likely be at night. And it was just, I couldn't risk, you know, the worry of thinking, oh no, what if I do, if they say no one's available, you're going to have to come in. So I couldn't bear the worry of that. So we went down the private midwife route. We used a company literally called privatemidwives.com, and we had an amazing midwife who I had through the whole of the end of the pregnancy. She came out, did all my tests, and we were able to form such a lovely bond together before, and we knew each other really well. And it was so nice, because I think if you don't know the midwife, it can, you know, you don't know who you're going to get. And I think it's quite important. It's a very personal experience. So it's nice that you've got that sort of rapport with somebody prior, and that continuity of
absolute confidence in them as well.
Yes, absolutely. And that continuity of care, I think for me, again, was something that really, you know, worked in our favour with having a positive birth experience.
Well, I don't know if this may have made you kind of, one of the reasons why you did decide to have a private midwife and a home birth is because, you know, our midwifery unit at Nottingham City Hospital hasn't got the best reputation.
No.
Put into special measures.
Yeah, that was absolutely one of the reasons as well, because of all the press on, you know, how they were, you know, not performing. They're so understaffed and there's not enough midwives to go around. They're all so, you know, overstretched, and they can't give what they'd like to give to each mother because there's just not the staff there. They're trying to flip between different births, and it's just, it is really bad. I'm not saying that everyone has a negative experience, because they don't. But it's definitely, I was a bit wary of thinking I would have to go to somewhere that was under review to have my baby. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, how important is eating organic meat during pregnancy, and how can vegetarians and vegans get the vital nutrients needed for a developing baby?
I mean, I am personally, I mean, I will sometimes, if I'm out, I'm not going to have, it's not going to be organic meat, but I am quite a stickler for, you know, purchasing grass-fed organic meats, wild fish and things like that, because of the amount of antibiotics, hormones and things that are passed into the meat. That's going to have an impact on our microbiome, because we are then ingesting antibiotics. So if you're eating, you know, you're not eating organic chicken, you're eating sort of, you know, factory raised chicken on every day, each meal. You know, some people have chicken at lunch, chicken at dinner every day. It's a lot, it's heavily focused in their diet. You are getting a lot of antibiotics through the meat, and that's going to affect your microbiome, and that's in turn going to affect your baby's microbiome, which is going to have long lasting effects. So for me, it's quite important to choose organic where possible. Yes, it can be more expensive, but if you look at different cuts of organic meat, so if instead of buying chicken breast, you buy the chicken thighs, for example, and the chicken on the bone, it's a lot cheaper. And different cuts of red meats and things, you know, there's more expensive and less expensive versions. So yeah, you can try and do it slightly, you know, in a more cost-effective way if budget is, you know, a concern. And the vegetarians and the vegans, I think in terms of protein from meats in general, I think. Sorry, did you? I think you might have broken up there, Linda.
I think you broke up a little bit there.
Oh, right.
So talking about how vegetarians and vegans get their vital nutrients for, you know, to help a developing baby.
Yeah, I think without meat, you absolutely can. You've just got to be a bit more mindful that you're not getting perhaps the complete set of amino acids that you would from meat, that you would in vegetarian sources. So you can get protein and nutrients, you know, that you would get in meat from vegan and vegetarian sources. If you're vegetarian, obviously you can have the eggs, which is a great source of protein. If you're vegan, you've got to be even more careful with, you know, particularly like protein. It's so vital to get enough protein when you're pregnant for the developing fetus. So, you know, looking at things like, for vegans particularly, you've got nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, those kind of things, maybe adding in a protein powder as well, just to cover the bases there. Because I think a lot of vegan diets can go down the route of very carbohydrate heavy and not getting enough protein in there, which, yeah, really important to get that. I think the fats are a bit easier because obviously you can get fats, quite a lot of fats from non-meat sources, but you do want to watch out for making sure you're getting enough of the omega-3 fats when you're vegan, because you're not getting it from the fish, the oily fish.
Okay. So I know we've already covered this, but because I've put it up as a question, can we just briefly cover it again? So folic acid, it's much better to take folate because that's the natural source. Folic acid is synthetic, and it helps to reduce neural defects in the baby.
Yes, absolutely.
And the supplement that you recommended was 400 micrograms of folate, and it was one by, did you say BioCare? So
yes, BioCare, yeah.
Right, that's great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then just one more about the iron as well, because again, I've just, you know, put it as a question. We know that some iron supplements during pregnancy can cause constipation, in particular iron fumarate, is it?
Yes, ferrous fumarate is one that's particularly constipating. Yeah.
Yes, and you would recommend iron bisoglycinate.
Bisglycinate, yes, or or
and
iron glycinate, yeah.
Glycinate, yes, bisoglycinate.
Yeah, bisglycinate is I'm questioning it myself now. Bisglycinate, yeah.
Right, okay. And why is that important for a developing baby? Or is it important for the woman as well?
Yeah, absolutely both. Like I mentioned before, there are risk factors associated. If you've got iron levels that are too low, it can cause complications with the birth, like excess bleeding, which is what is classed as the postpartum hemorrhage, where you can lose a hell of a lot of blood. So you really need it for you, but you also do need it for the baby as well, because they need to be able to build up their iron stores and build up their blood and everything like that. So your iron stores are dramatically decreased because the baby is taking up a lot more. Your blood volume is increasing. So you do need to make sure you're really focusing on iron-rich foods, and a general pregnancy multivitamin will have some iron in it as well, so it's sort of giving you that baseline, but iron-rich foods definitely.
Okay, right, thank you. So where were we? Oh yeah, can you give women who are contemplating getting pregnant some tips on how to prepare their bodies for carrying a baby and what to do to give their baby the best start in life?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I think I touched on earlier about, if you're thinking about getting pregnant, really honing in on supporting your hormone health. So the hormones, like I said, are made of fat. So you want to be making sure that you're getting plenty of fats in your diet. So healthy fats, I'm not talking about like cakes and pastries. We are talking about, things like avocados, olives, olive oil, coconut products, nuts, seeds, red meat, grass-fed red meat though, oily fish, all of those things that are, the good fats. So we want to be having an abundance of those with our meals, making sure that we are really nourishing those hormonal cells in our body. Supporting the gut microbiome is so important. So prior to conception, and also while pregnant, making sure that you are, I would say, like, following sort of a Mediterranean style diet would really be the best way to put in a roundabout way of what sort of diet should I follow. Well, it's exactly that, where there's lots of nice fresh fishes, meats, vegetables. There's not much processed foods. There's a lot of polyphenols going into that, lots of olive oils, those kind of things that are just so great for nourishing your microbiome. Lots of plant-based fibers. The recommendation is around 20 to 30 different plant-based foods over the whole week. So variety of your plant-based foods. So that just includes, it doesn't just include fruit and veg, it also includes like nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, grains. So actually it's quite easy to get those over the whole week, but you do have to be a bit mindful of not just going to the supermarket and putting the very same ones in the basket every time, thinking about, oh, I haven't had aubergine this week, let's put some of that in, how can we incorporate that into our weekly menu. But also looking at those fermented foods, so things like kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir, natural yogurt, those kind of things, great for supporting the microbiome, adding in, live cultures, but also taking a probiotic. Again, I took one every day while I was pregnant and before, and while I'm breastfeeding, because we're still passing on bacteria through the breast milk as well. So supporting the gut microbiome, really high up on that list. I suppose.
Sorry, carry on. Just finish your point, then I want to ask you something about breastfeeding, actually.
Okay. I think trying to, like I touched on earlier, minimize toxins prior to conception, because once you're pregnant, you can't do any work in terms of detoxifying the body in any way. You can't do any kill off protocols for your gut health. You can't do anything like that, because those toxins, any die off toxins or anything, are going to be passed on to your baby. So any work you think you've got a niggle that you might want to work on, try and do it before you get pregnant, so that you can have it done and have that nice clean sort of slate for when you have your baby. I think if you've got weight to lose, trying to do this before you're pregnant as well, because again, it's not as easy to do and it's not recommended to do really while you're pregnant. If you've got a lot of weight to lose, can affect your ability to get pregnant. So trying to support healthy weight loss before pregnancy. Again, I think stress levels is another one to really focus on if you're thinking about having a baby and want to, you know, have the best chances of conceiving. Stress is a massive one to work on. And then there's the obvious ones, like obviously avoiding alcohol, smoking. Caffeine is another one, maybe not so commonly known about, but yeah, that can increase the time it takes to get pregnant if you're drinking too much caffeine.
Okay, great. So breastfeeding then. So did you have any issues with breastfeeding? You know, starting off breastfeeding?
Yes, I did. Well, it was just incredibly painful for me to start with. We actually had a lactation consultant come over to our house after about, I think it was about 4 days of me thinking this is so painful, what's going wrong. She came over and she really adjusted the latch, adjusted the positioning, gave us so many tips to help, and that really saved my breastfeeding journey because it was so painful to start with. Once we'd got the latch right, it was great. And I'm still breastfeeding now, not as much obviously anymore because she's having her 3 meals a day now and some snacks, so it's not loads, but I think the World Health Organization actually recommend we breastfeed until they're 2. But the percentage, I think, of people who get to 1 year, I think it's only about 1%. So I really wanted to get to that 1 year mark, which we luckily have, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to continue it for this long.
So those first few days then, when you were trying to breastfeed, it was really painful. Was Frida not able to get any milk?
She was. I was just like enduring this painful experience, and like it was sort of toe curling, but I was adamant I was going to do it. So I just sort of went through the pain. I did have like some cracked, bleeding nipples, but I was like, nope, I'm not stopping this. But then once we got the lady over who helped, it all just healed very quickly, and we were fine after that. But I think getting that support, because there's not that much support for breastfeeding, and if you're having any issues, I think get the support, get a lactation consultant, go and see someone, go to a breastfeeding group. You can change the direction of how you might think it might end up, and you can turn it around.
Okay, that's great information.
Yeah.
So did you do anything different, anything extra to ensure that your breast milk was, you know, was rich and satisfied Frida?
I think again, like just having that healthy, balanced diet, taking the probiotics as well, because that is passed into the breast milk as well. Making sure that you're supporting your own immune system, because obviously their immune system is built off your own immune system. So there's that. I did actually have to cut out caffeine entirely because I think it was affecting her sleep. So I wasn't overdoing it. I was having, which I never used to, but I was so tired. I was having the odd coffee, never more than 1 a day, but I had to cut that out actually because I think it was going through the breast milk and affecting her and she just wasn't sleeping, like napping very well. So I did cut that out. But yes, I think just making sure you are not having still any of the things that are not allowed in terms of supplements in with breastfeeding, because there's still quite a lot that you can't have. Even so,
what, Sophia?
Off the top of my head, like there's particularly some teas that I thought, oh, I can't have these yet, like licorice and things that are in there. There's various things that are contraindicated with breastfeeding. I think a lot of it isn't based on it might cause this, but it's the unknown kind of thing, because it's not that ethical to study on babies, so they kind of do a lot of blanket approach of we're not allowing this for breastfeeding.
We're on the side of caution, yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Something about antibiotics now. So they are needed during pregnancy and breastfeeding sometimes, but can you explain how antibiotics can affect not just the microbiome of the mum-to-be, but the baby's developing gut and microbiome too?
Yeah, so antibiotics, obviously, if taken while pregnant, this can affect the mother's microbiome, knock out a lot of their beneficial flora. And if you're planning on having a vaginal birth, this will then impact your baby's microbiome, because the baby's microbiome, the majority of it is picked up when they exit through the vaginal canal, the birth canal. The bacteria enter through their mouth, their nose, it goes all over their skin. So if your microbiome is affected by antibiotics, it will have that effect on the baby's microbiome. So antibiotics can sometimes be unavoidable, but do sometimes question, like, is this 100% necessary, or is it sort of being given, you know, without thorough, you know, care and investigation of, you know, some are given out for UTIs where the testing hasn't been done and it's not the right bacteria for the antibiotics that's given, and it's complete waste of time, as an example. So make sure that it is really necessary, and if you do have to have them, make sure you really do follow up with probiotics afterwards, and including the foods that we mentioned earlier, the fermented foods that help with replenishing the live bacteria and cultures that can be lost. If a lot of people might have to have antibiotics at birth, particularly if you have a C-section. Even if you have a C-section anyway, the importance of taking probiotics afterwards is even more so, because the baby isn't passing through the birth canal, so they're not picking up that bacteria. Some people like to do vaginal seeding if they have a C-section, where they actually use a gauze and they then use that from their own vaginal microbiome and wipe that onto the baby after birth. But if you're not doing that, I would absolutely be thinking about taking probiotics yourself, particularly if you're breastfeeding, and also probably giving the baby probiotics. You can get little drop ones that are very easy to just pop into their mouths.
So would I too, yes. Because
yeah,
if the mother's taking antibiotics, they can pass through the placenta to the baby.
Yes. And like I say, not just that, but affecting the microbiome via the mother's microbiome is also, you know, a consideration.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so I know from looking at your Instagram feed, and what's your Instagram handle, Sophia?
It's at Sophia Hill Nutrition.
Sophia Hill
easy one.
Nutrition.
Yeah.
Sophia Hill Nutrition. Yes, you've been weaning Frida, haven't you?
Yes, I can't believe it's been 6 months now of weaning. I mean, it's gone very quickly. I can't believe it.
What does she like? What doesn't she like?
She's a really good eater, actually. We mainly did baby-led weaning with Frida, so we let her get messy, we let her explore, we let her pick things up with her fingers rather than, you know, just the spoon feeding. We did a bit of spoon feeding, but mainly did the baby-led weaning. And she's a really good eater. She's had some fussy phases where she's been teething and she's been really off her food, but she's really good. She loves most things you give her. She loves, you know, from like blueberries to, she loves sweet potato wedges. I do her quite a lot. She likes liver, which I give her, try to sneak into things. To be fair, I do try and sneak quite a lot of things into her food. I give her things like spirulina into her yogurts and mashed up things. I give her bone marrow, I give her bone broth. She has bone broth off the spoon. So I try and give her a very balanced diet. I try to sort of, wherever I can see it as an opportunity to add more nourishment in, I always do. If I'm like, oh, can I sneak a little bit of this in there? We have blueberry powder, so if we haven't got blueberries in, I might put some blueberry powder in her yogurt. I'm always trying to elevate her food where I can to make sure she's getting all the nutrition that she possibly can do. She burns a lot of energy as well. She's very active. She is very quick at crawling. She's always on the move. So I try and give her really nutrient dense foods. Try and make sure the balance is there between the protein. Heavily actually focus more than protein in babies is the fats, because their brain is developing at such a rapid rate. They actually need a lot more focus on fats. They actually don't need as much protein as you think, babies. So we really we have avocado a hell of a lot. We have a lot of wild salmon. We eat a lot of eggs and things like that. So I'm really trying to get all those fats in for her brain development. And yeah, trying to get a rainbow of colours and all of that in there.
So you make meal times fun.
We try, definitely, and I do make a lot of her food from scratch. I know it's not always possible with time constraints, but I do try and yeah, make sure that I cook everything for her because I actually enjoy it as well. Like I was really looking forward to weaning her because I love creating food for her, and I just made her, actually, I'm going to post it on my Instagram, a healthy, baby friendly first birthday cake that we did. And we just put it in front of her on her high chair and just like see what she did with it. And she went round the edge nibbling it, and then she started getting her hands in. And but yeah, I'll post the recipe soon because it didn't have any sugar in it, and it was a really good recipe, actually. I thought it was quite nice myself.
That's amazing, thank you. Right, okay, so I think the last question, Sophia, is why do you think fertility rates are plummeting? Do you think it's down to the again, the environment, diet and lifestyle, epigenetics?
Oh, are we back? No, you're still. Sorry, that just froze ages there. And it was just black.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah. So, why do you think fertility rates are plummeting? Do you think again it's down to epigenetics, the environment, toxin exposure, diet, lifestyle, stress levels?
I think I always like to look at women, and I think the are really dropping, and I feel like there's a lot more people now struggling with fertility than ever before. The IVF rates are through the roof, and I think I like to look at the environment. So I'm thinking about the nutrition, and I'm thinking, actually, for the majority of people, the nutrition is becoming poorer and poorer. The processed foods that are just so readily available, they're on the rise. They're all packed with inflammatory seed oils and refined sugar in every single processed food that you pick up, which are both highly inflammatory foods and really, really poor quality. So really not conducive for fertility. So trying to think about moving away from the processed foods, looking foods, again, Mediterranean style diet, think about that. That's a great way to base your diet on. I think, weight is another one. So obesity is on the rise, and that is a massive factor in terms of infertility. Also being underweight, incidentally, there's a lot of cases of women who are underweight as well, and that's another one. If we've been brainwashed into thinking low fat diet, skinny is the way, that is another picture of infertility. Over exercising, which puts stress on the body, that's another real picture for poor hormonal health and them not conceiving as quickly as you'd like to. Hormonal health, again, we touched on this earlier, but it's really affected by today's modern world, like the xenoestrogens that are found in everything from our food, our water, to what our food is wrapped into plastic water bottles, to xenoestrogens found in pesticides that are sprayed on all our foods, to chemicals that are laden in women's beauty products.
Which what a xenoestrogen is, Sophia, for those who don't know.
Yeah, so a xenoestrogen is basically it's a chemical that mimics estrogen in the body. So what it can do is it could go and sit on your estrogen receptors in your body and behave like an estrogen, but it's blocking the natural estrogen sources and that you need to enter your cells. So it basically really can affect your hormone levels with these xenoestrogens. Some of them are very potent as well, the ones that are found in plastics. So things like BPA, that is a huge source of xenoestrogen. So if you are still drinking out of a plastic water bottle and you're struggling with fertility, go and put it in the bin now and switch to glass water bottle or a stainless steel one, and it will do wonders for your hormone health. Every time you crack one of those plastic water bottles, it is releasing more of that BPA into the water than you're drinking it. And I still see so many women, like at my gym and stuff, with plastic water bottles, and I'm thinking it's been in the news recently about these microplastics and how they are they're being found in our cells now. So at least it's becoming more sort of known about with media, but it's just everywhere, you know, like I just touched on. Beauty products for women. A lot of women cake their faces in makeup every day, which is, again, lathered with chemicals that can disrupt your hormones. It's just everywhere. So, you know, if you want to hone in on your hormonal health, you need to really have a look at not just your diet, but those other things like household sources of xenoestrogens, food sources, beauty products, household cleaning products as well. And I think another one that is, again, it's been in the media a bit more recently, is phones and EMF sort of emissions, and particularly men. Yeah, men keeping them in their phones right near to their testicles, and it is having an effect on sperm count. So that is another one. Like, don't keep your phone in your mobiles, men. Men out there listening, yeah, it's definitely not great.
Wonder what human civilization is going to look like in another couple of thousand years.
Yeah.
Are we going to be here, or, you know, are the fertility rates going to plummet that much that eventually we're just going to, you know, become extinct?
Oh gosh, it doesn't bear thinking about. But honestly, I feel like the way things are heading, it doesn't look great, actually, which is why I love that we're having this conversation, and I hope it will reach lots of people and, you know, raise awareness about the things that we can do to prevent that. And the last one I'll mention,
lots of things that we can do to keep ourselves, to keep our families, our children healthy and well.
Definitely.
It's having that knowledge, isn't it?
It really is.
So if people want to contact you for nutritional advice, how do they do so? So your social media handle, well, on Instagram is Sophia Hill Nutrition.
Yes.
Are you on Facebook, Sophia?
I am, but I don't really post much on there. Mainly Instagram, really.
Mainly Instagram. And your website, is that also Sophia Hill Nutrition?
Yes. If you type Sophia Hill Nutrition into Google, it'll come up. That's my website, and there's some free resources on there. You can contact me on there on the contact page. And yes, Instagram again is another great one. I'm more active on there probably than emails, because I am still on maternity leave currently, thinking about going back quite soon. But yeah, so I am still taking inquiries, and hopefully we're back at it quite soon.
Yes, and I think your Instagram page is beautiful.
Oh,
well, not
thank
beautiful, it's very informative.
Thank you. I need to get back to posting more regular content on there, really. But I think then the next post is actually going to be that baby-friendly birthday cake, because I had so many inquiries from people saying, "Can you please share?" So I'm gonna post that this week.
Oh, great, I'll be checking it out.
Yeah.
Right, just before we wind up, then. It's IBS Awareness Month and Bowel Cancer Awareness Month in April, and I thought it'd be great if the two of us could do, you know, a live on IBS in particular sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're up for it, and you know what our thoughts are about IBS, what causes it, and you know, natural solutions to resolving those symptoms.
Yeah,
so
sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to.
So thank you so much. That has been so interesting. I've certainly learned new things, Sophia.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's going to be a great video resource for women to watch. You know, for those who are thinking of getting pregnant and want a healthy baby at the end of it. Right, so thank you very much, and thank you everyone for watching, whether you're watching live or watching on catch up. I hope you enjoyed that, and don't forget to share it. Perhaps you're a mum or a grandma or an auntie or a sister watching this, and if there's someone in your family who's thinking of getting pregnant, who can't get pregnant, then please do share this video with them. So thanks again, everyone, and thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Linda.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.